And we are back. No sooner does the European drama end that the Premier League drama begins once again. It is another humongous week in the Premier League with games up and down the table all having massive impacts this weekend. Before we get into it, as always, do drop a like on this video if you enjoy these prediction series and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And let's just get straight into it. There is a lot to talk about today. We kick off with a huge game in the race for the top four between Aston Villa and Newcastle United. Now, I say a huge game because on the current form, Aston Villa would be second in the Premier League table from when Unai Emery took over. And if they continue their run of form, who's to say they are not in this top four race? Eddie Howe's Newcastle certainly would, and they want to put a stop to their run of form and continue their run of good form by travelling to Villa Park and getting yet another win themselves. However, I really do think this is a massively difficult game for Newcastle, despite the run of form that they're in. Aston Villa are on just as good a run themselves, so it's a tight one to call. I'm going to back Aston Villa to keep their run going, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Aston Villa. I do think all three possibilities are available in this one. It's a really tight game to call this, and I just think it all depends on which team turns up on the day. Obviously, as we said, Newcastle have won basically every single game since their League Cup final defeat, but I have to look at Villa's form, especially at home, over the last few weeks, and just say I think they're going to edge this one. If it was the other way round, again, I'd probably go for a 2-1 win to Newcastle. But I just think right now, Aston Villa at home is just one step too far for this current Newcastle team. But we shall see. On to the 3 o'clocks then. And we start with another massively difficult game to call, which is Chelsea against high-flying Brighton. Now, it's now 4 games since Chelsea have scored their last goal. Brighton, of course, are playing some of the best football in the league. They are winning games. They were arguably the team to beat in the race for the top 4 going into last week's games before Tottenham's bizarre and quite disgraceful win due to all of those VAR incidents. So how much that'll affect Brighton going into this game against Chelsea currently remains to be seen. Obviously, it puts a massive dent in their top 4 hopes. Chelsea are just looking for a goal. Chelsea are just looking for a result at the moment. They played okay against Real Madrid, although I don't think Real Madrid were at their best in that game in midweek. So it'd be very easy for me to sit here and say that Brighton just take this because at the moment they're the better team. But I'm not quite confident enough to do that. I am going to give Chelsea their goal, but I'm not going to give Chelsea the win that they need, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Again, I think all 3 possibilities are available in this one as well, but right now I'm not quite confident enough to say that Brighton are going to go to Stamford Bridge and get the win, and I'm backing Frank Lampard to get something from this game for Chelsea. On to Everton against Fulham, and based on what we've seen from both of these sides over the last few weeks, I think it's fair to say I would expect Everton to get the win in this one. Again, their record under Sean Dyche has been pretty impeccable, to be honest with you, bar one really poor performance. And Fulham, without Aleksandar Mitrovic, have been really a shadow of the team that we've seen so far this season. So I think it's quite easy for me to just say that it's going to be yet another 1-0 win for Everton at home under Sean Dyche. I'm sure that's what he's going to be looking for, and I'm sure that the Everton players are going to be pretty confident that they can pull that off against the Fulham side without their main man. So I think this is a pretty easy one to go for, and I'm going to go for 1-0 Everton once again. On to the relegation battle, and 2 sides that are in danger of going down. Southampton, who are almost down, and Crystal Palace, who are under a fantastic revival with Roy Hodgson in charge. Now, we did mention when Patrick Vieira got sacked that I thought it was incredibly harsh, given the fixtures that Crystal Palace had coming up. And since Roy Hodgson's taken over, they have taken full advantage of those fixtures against weaker sides. But it has also seen a return to form for the likes of Michael Olise and Ebri Eze. So I think Crystal Palace are going to take this one. Southampton need miracles to get out of the position they're in right now. And from what I saw of their performance last week, albeit against a very good Manchester City side, it just looks to me that they haven't got enough left in them to pull off a revival. So I'm going to go for 3-1 to Crystal Palace. I think that is a fair prediction based off of the last few weeks. I hope in terms of a dramatic side, I hope Southampton are able to pull off a result here, but I just don't see it happening from what I've seen in the last couple of weeks. Next up, we have Tottenham taking on Bournemouth, and again, as much as I'd like to see Bournemouth go and get a result against Tottenham, especially as a Manchester United fan that wants Tottenham to drop points in the race for the top four, I think with the form of Harry Kane at the moment, it's hard to see Bournemouth keeping him out, and it's hard to see Tottenham allowing Bournemouth to get a result in this game. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Spurs. Obviously, the way Bournemouth have played over the last few weeks, it's more than possible that they can pull off a shock result here, but I just don't see it right now. I think this is a game that Tottenham should be winning in their pursuit of Champions League football, and I'm expecting them to do that. On to Wolves and Brentford, and this is yet another one that is really tough to call. Wolves' form very, very flip-floppy at the moment. Brentford are on a very good run once again, with the exception of that really poor and surprising performance at Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago. Now, it'd be easy for me to sit here and say that Brentford take this one pretty comfortably, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. Like I say, Wolves have had performances recently where they've turned up and played well. They obviously beat Chelsea in their last game, so we'll see what's going to happen in this one. I still expect Brentford to get the result. I'm going to go for 2-1 though. I think it's going to be a very tight game. I think Wolves are more than capable of getting the result themselves, but I just think Brentford are on that little bit of an upturn again at the moment, and I'm expecting them to get the win. On to the final game of Saturday then, and we go with Manchester City at home to Leicester, and you're basically looking at the most informed team in the league taking on the most out-of-form team in the league. And what I mean in terms of form in this regard is the actual performances. Now, obviously, we spoke about Villa and Newcastle and their form. We spoke about Southampton's form. But in terms of on-the-pitch performance, I don't think there's a side playing better football than Manchester City in the Premier League at the moment. And I don't think there's a side playing worse football than Leicester City at the moment. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises for you guys when I say that I think Man City take this one 5-0. And if anything, it could probably end up being even more. This is a really, really dangerous fixture for Leicester, and I think they're going to have to do everything in their power just to keep Man City out. If Bayern Munich is shipping 3 against this Manchester City side, you have to fear for Leicester. They're going to have to try something unique and bizarre if they're going to pull off a result in this one, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest with you. 5-0 to City in the Saturday evening game. On to Sunday, and we see the Europa Conference side, West Ham, taking on the eliminated Europa League side in Arsenal, which, of course, are going to be looking for a response from their bottle job against Liverpool at Anfield last week. The Premier League is still in their hands, but they're going to need to start scoring some goals, because if they lose to Manchester City at the Etihad in a couple of weeks, they will be behind them on goal difference. So goals need to start going in for Arsenal very quickly if they're going to have any chance of winning the Premier League title off the back of a potential defeat to Manchester City. They come up against the West Ham side that are going to be mixed confidence. Obviously, they lost 5-1 in their last home game. They then went and won away last week and got the draw against Ghent last night. So I don't think this is going to be easy for Arsenal, but I would expect Arsenal to get the win with the performances they have shown in recent weeks. I'm going to go for 3-1. I still think West Ham get a goal. I'm not convinced by Arsenal defensively at the moment, but I think, again, they've just got too much attacking quality for West Ham and will inevitably end up getting the win. The final game of Sunday sees Nottingham Forest hosting a very injury-hit Manchester United off the back of last night's Europa League games. Obviously, it appears that both of our centre-backs are going to be out injured, but we do have the likes of Varane. Sorry, not Varane. He's one of the ones injured. We have the likes of Maguire, Lindelof and Luke Shaw, and potentially even Casemiro, that can fill in at centre-back if need be. So I don't think it's going to be too bad defensively. We looked very good in the first half last night as well, and if we play like we did in that first half against Nottingham Forest, I would expect us to get a couple of goals. And the form Nottingham Forest are in at the moment, I can't see them getting more than potentially 1 against Manchester United. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for United. That's a bit more out of hope than it is out of genuine prediction. Nottingham Forest could definitely get a result here, but I'll be very disappointed to not see Manchester United pull off the result in this one. And finally, we have the return of Monday Night Football for the first time in a while. It is Leeds United taking on Liverpool. Now, Leeds got the shock win at Anfield earlier in the season, but they were just smashed 5-1 at home by Crystal Palace. Liverpool managed to build some momentum in that second half against Arsenal and pull off the 2-2 comeback, despite Mo Salah's missed penalty. But that was at Anfield, and away from Anfield, Liverpool have been very, very poor recently. So this isn't as easy as just to say, oh, Leeds lost 5-1 to Crystal Palace, therefore they're going to get smashed by Liverpool as well. Leeds need a response. They're in the relegation zone at the moment. They need a big result. They're going to have the Ellen Road crowd behind them. It's going to be a Monday night game, so we know under the lights, clubs tend to perform better. But I just have a feeling on Liverpool this week. I have to look at their squad and say, surely it's going to come good for them at some point. Hopefully to the extent that it doesn't put them back in the top 4 race. But they've got to be targeting Leeds United as a win. And I'm expecting Liverpool to get the job done. And I'm going to go for 3-2 to Liverpool, because I still think defensively they're all over the place and Leeds are more than capable of nicking at least 1 or 2 against Liverpool. But in the end, I'm expecting Liverpool to get the win. And that is going to be it for this week's predictions. As always, let me know down in the comments your thoughts on my predictions, as well as giving me your predictions as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow morning with my fantasy football best of team for this game week. I'll see you then.